Alright gang, let's get into this. I'm going to show you a quick and easy way to do an OSL effect using your airbrush, a little bit of traditional brushwork as well. This can be done with anything from Necrons to Tau to Space Marines. Doesn't matter what it is, we're going to show you how to do it. Of course, I'm using the Necron blaster here. I just did a quick metal workup. That's going to be the baseline here, and then we'll get into it. I'm going to start off with a little dark blue from Monument Pro Acryl. I'm going to use this to kind of paint a base layer over the top of this coil looking thing in the back here. I'm not going to go into those 3 slots above the coil. I'm not going to do the rods on the gun either. Just going to start basing it off here where I'm going to have the strongest light. This could be done on a plasma weapon even. Now, when I get into the airbrush work, I'm going to kind of spray around the edges of all of these areas that I want the lighting source to be from. I'm going to use the Sotar 2020 from Badger. I love this thing for fine detail. You can really dial it down, and the air is going to be the key here. I'm going to use this micro dial on my inline moisture trap. It'll really help me dial down that PSI. I'm going to be spraying at about 5 PSI. Then I'm also going to wheel down the aperture here. See how far that brush can go back, that trigger can go back? I'm going to dial it down so it's barely moving. There's barely going to be any air or paint coming through. Of course, we'll use some airbrush flow improver throughout. And the first layer I'm going to shoot through the gun is going to be the Pro Acryl Blue. Drop a few drip drops of flow improver in the brush and about 2 drops or so of the blue. Give it a little mixy there. Now, I want to show you guys, there's hardly any air coming through this. I'm spraying at about 5 PSI. It's very light, very gradual. It's not a broad spray. I can go down and do insanely fine lines with this if I need to, like hair thin lines, right? But if I pull the brush back a little bit and I start spraying from a little bit further out, it gives it that kind of powdery, feathered look. So that's what I'm going to do here. I'm going to start by spraying around that coil casing. I'm going to make sure that I don't get too crazy with the overspray. I feel like a lot of airbrush OSL gets a little out of hand when people get super extreme with the overspray of the airbrush. I'm really going to concentrate on just this like rectangle section. Okay? Then I'll move over to the rods on the gun as well. And again, I'm not going to get crazy with it. It's going to barely overspray onto that kind of rectangle piece at the bottom of the gun where the little stabby bit attaches. Just testing a little bit here on my hand, making sure that the consistency is good before I start getting into those 3 little, I don't know, slots or whatever you want to call them. But tidying up a little bit here. I don't want to get too much. That's about it right there. I'm going to spray back down from the top down because I might have missed some areas there because of the overspray angle. But now I'm going to get into the rods here. Again, I'm going to take it really slow. I'm going to take it really thin. I still want that metallic property to kind of shine through in a slight way. Okay? I'm not going to go ham. I'm just going to do almost like I'm glazing. I'm going to do just a couple of thin coats here. And that's about it. Next up, I'm going to dump the pot and throw in some sky blue from Pro Acryl. You can get that through Creature Caster. Of course, as usual, flow improver. And we're going to do just 2 drops of paint here. Again, mixy. Make sure it's nice and mixed up. Skim milk consistency here. I'm going to backfloat a little bit. Make sure none of that previous color got stuck in the needle. And we should be off to the races here. So now I'm going to focus a little tighter. I'm going to let that dark blue show on the edges of where I sprayed previously. And I'm going to bring it in a little bit tighter with this light blue, and I'm going to spray directly on the center, right down that line of circles. Keeping that spray very thin so you can almost see the dark blue, well, the medium blue I should say, through the sky blue. Just keep it concentrated. I almost kind of circle those circles as well. That's how much detail I'm getting out of this brush. Sotar's such a killer brush. Also spray the coils and around those 3 slots. You're basically spraying inside of the territory that you had just sprayed. Alright, so once it's good and dried out, now you want to use some flow improver and some sort of blue wash. I'm going to use Quick Shade here. I like to make a real thin wash. I didn't clear coat it before I did the wash or anything. Basically, I'm going to recess shade, essentially. So I'm going to mix this up. You're going to see how transparent it is there. I'm going to reach for my 00 Saber by Game Envy, the people that make the hobby holder. And I'm just going to kind of deposit this wash between the coils here. This would work for a plasma gun. Anything you see on this section of the tutorial would work great on a Space Marine plasma gun. And I'm going to fill in these gaps too. I want that dark blue in those gaps. I'm going to hit inside those coils a little bit, those 3 little slots above the coils, I should say. And I'm going to kind of, it's a tight detail, so don't expect perfection, but I almost trace the outline inside the little oval, the little slit, whatever you want to call that. And then once you let it dry, it kind of dissipates, you know, kind of feathers itself out, if you will. Of course, trace the little ornate details on the rods as well. And we'll go back to the flow improver. This time I'm going to mix a little bit of white ink. This is Scale 75's Inktense set. And I'm going to mix some white and some cyan. So here it is on the palette. I got my white, I got my cyan, and then I got my little puddle of flow improver that I'm going to bring the pigment to. So I want to go heavier on the white. This can be tricky. Sometimes you gotta adjust a few times. So you're gonna see this is gonna take me a minute. I wanted to show you guys this real time so you understand. Ink is extremely pigment heavy, so you can go over the edge like boom, done. You're too far. So take your time, add little bits here, little bits there. Once you're happy with the consistency, then you can add the blue, but be careful. The blue, or cyan, is even more intense. See, I start mixing it in, and then I'm like, nope, I got too much on here. Just that little dab damn near turned my white blue, entirely blue. I don't want that. I want it to be more of a whitish kind of cloud blue, if you will. So you see me reaching for more white here. And I'm going to mix in a couple more dabs of white. In fact, I think I grab a bigger brush. Yeah, this is me rinsing to grab a bigger brush to get more of this white. Because I added too much blue, now I've got to bring it closer to white. Essentially what we're going to do with this is put it into the coils, into the little engraving circles in the rods of the gun to kind of give it that glowing effect. Now I've mixed too much pigment in it and it's not going to be thin enough. So I had to add a little bit more flow improver there. It's a wrestling match back and forth, but make sure it's perfect because this is an important step. Alright, now let's go back to that super fine brush. I think I'm using the double aught here. And I'm just going to deposit this ink kind of wash in these recesses here, only on this portion of the gun, the rods. And then I also do it on the 3 little slits as well, just above the main coil. Just take your time, go super slow. You don't want to get a bunch of over spillage, whatever. It's not clear coated, so it's not going to be easy to remove. So just take your time, do 1 coat, let it dry, and then maybe apply a second if it needs it. Alright, so now I'm going to go back to sky blue here. We're going to do this all on the palette. Bold titanium white, both from Pro Acryl. So there's my titanium white. I'm going to take a little puddle of that. We're going to go more white than blue, just like we did the inks here. I'm going to take a little bit of this blue, and I'm going to mix it into this white. I'm going to kind of thin it down to almost a glaze consistency, but really just a super thin version. I want it to kind of trend closer to the blue. It's going to be halfway between the blue and the white. I'd give you a mixture of, let's say, 2 to 1, 3 to 1, 2 parts white, 3 parts white to 1 part blue. You want to be able to highlight the coils next. Now I'm using Airbrush Medium here from Golden. You can use water, it's okay. Water tends to make things look chalky though, so I tend to use mediums, but use what you're comfortable with. And add about a brush full. Mix it in there real good. It just helps thin it down a little bit. Now take your time with a really fine point brush and start tracing those coils, okay? Now I'm leaning more towards the white side of things because I want the tops of these coils to be glowing bright, like red hot almost, right? But in this case, blue hot. The depths are going to be where you want that blue influence. The peaks are where you're going to want that really, really sharp, kind of whitish, almost leaning towards white, okay? That's what's going to really sell your OSL. Right now it doesn't look like much, but it's all in the highlighting. So now I'm going to move on to the edge highlighting. I'm actually going to go about 50-50 here. So I'm adding a little bit of blue into this mix. And I'm going to go back to my sharp pointed brush here. And I'm going to trace every sharp outline that is touching blue. So of course this kind of like guard bar going across the energy coil, whatever you want to call that, the gauze coil. I want to trace that on both sides. And of course the circumference of each of these ovals is going to get hit with it. Take your time, go really slow, use the side of your brush on any sharp edges. Of course the same thing down here on the coils. You want to trace each one of these little circles. You really need a steady hand, and I don't want to hear the excuses because I got a hypoglycemia, I shake like a falling leaf, and I'm able to do it. Just take your time, guys. Slow. Don't be trying to rush things. Make sure you take it easy. Finish the rest of the model. Same way, nice and slow with your sharp highlights. And you'll have a nice pretty little glow effect to it. Let me move this hook out of the way here. It's sharp, it looks good. It's wonderful tabletop, even beyond tabletop. This isn't going to win you any golden demons, but it's definitely going to get your armies painted to a great standard. Alright gang, thank you so much for coming and checking out my second video here. I invite you guys to come and check me out live on Twitch 3 days a week. I am officially now part of the Long War stream team, so there's been a bit of a schedule change. I stream Tuesdays and Thursdays from 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time until about midnight, but I'm now switching to Saturdays at 4:30 p.m. till 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time to help out with the stream team raid. Kenny's going to be raiding into me, and I'll be raiding into Jack of Clubs. Come check us out. Also, I invite you guys to follow me on all my social media platforms and to check out my Patreon, where you will get in-depth tutorials, exclusive PDF tutorials to patrons only, as well as higher discount codes from most of my sponsors. There's a whole bunch of benefits there. Appreciate you coming and checking that out. Remember to give a subscribe here on YouTube and a thumbs up, and leave a comment down below. Let me know what you want to see from the channel from here on out. Thanks again, everybody. Take care.